If you've seen any of our previous videos here on LinkedIn or indeed on our YouTube channel, you will know that I'm a big fan of the power of the LinkedIn platform. I see it as an essential tool for anybody who wants to absolutely maximize the potential of their career. So with that in mind, I'm going to talk about sending out connection requests, why it's so important, and some do's and don'ts when you actually construct and send that connection request message. So I think there's a number of reasons why sending out connection requests is really important. The first is that we want to build our professional network. It seems pretty common sense that having a strong, useful and valuable professional network is important for anybody's careers, so long as it's underpinned by the ethos that you are there to serve other people. Second reason is that whether you're engaged in a job search now or you want to have a steady stream of inbound messages from people asking you to consider the idea of working for them and their organization, then having a strong number of connections on LinkedIn is a really important thing to do. So it can really enhance your career in that manner. I think also if you're not using LinkedIn for those particular reasons, but instead of using it for business, you're prospecting for new business, then finding new clients, whether it be B2B or B2C, is something that you can absolutely do on the LinkedIn platform. So making yourself findable and being returned in searches is kind of something that underpins all of this. And we can say that keywords are clearly important, but also the sheer number of people that you're connected to is also something that we guess is important to the algorithms in LinkedIn. And so you're much more likely to be returned in a search when people are looking for you if you have 500 connections than if you have 50. And it follows that if you have 5,000 connections rather than 500, well then you're even more likely to be returned in those searches. So making yourself findable is important in that way. It's just numbers. Also, making yourself findable can be influenced by the number of profile views that you get each week or each month. And profile views can be increased by dint of sending out connection requests. So with all that in mind, what are some do's and don'ts about sending out connection requests? Well, I think the first thing is we don't want to just connect with anybody. We don't want to do this in a casual manner. We want to think very carefully about who we want to be connected with, who you want to have in your LinkedIn network. Now, I know some people have a policy whereby they only connect to people that they actually met or they actually know. Well, that might be something that works for you. I'm going to suggest that having much larger numbers would work even better for you. So you can think about all the people who you currently work with, your current clients, your colleagues, also people who you used to work with who've gone on to work in other places as well. And then think about, well, who else in my industry, who else don't I know yet, but I want to build a relationship, might be useful as well. So think carefully about who you are going to be connected with and curate lists of people who are relevant to whatever it is that you do. Second thing is to actually read in some detail the profile of the person that you want to connect to and notice some things. Notice things that you have in common, perhaps places where you've worked, people that you both know, places where you're educated and so on. But also if they have anything else interesting going on in their profile that you can mention in the connection request. So for example, last summer I was reading someone's profile. This lady had done a really interesting project in Birmingham with entrepreneurs and so on. And I thought that's really something of interest. And I mentioned that article that she'd written and then my takeaway from that article in the connection request that I sent out. The third thing then is now actually writing the message. Rather than just clicking send, you can then actually construct a short message where you can mention those things so that that person receiving that message is aware that you've actually taken the trouble to read their profile. Next thing is to keep that message short, and then there are perhaps some don'ts. This is not the time to pitch for business. This is not the time to ask for an introduction so that you can get a job. It is simply making that connection. And also, I don't do any bait and switch. So for example, when I send out a connection request, I make it quite clear that I am a career coach so that nobody thinks that I could be being disingenuous at all in the connection request that I'm sending. Final thing is to strike the right tone. We don't want to be too formal, too brisk or whatever. We also don't want to be too informal and palsy either. So there you go. basics of what to do, what not to do, and the reasons why it's a great idea to curate specific people for you to connect with, curate those lists, and send out a steady stream of well thought through connection requests each day and each week. Hope you find that useful. I'll be putting the blog that I wrote about this in the comments below, and if you would find it useful to have a chat with me at some point, then all the contact info of how you can reach out to me and how we could have that conversation about your career or about your job search is in the top of my LinkedIn profile in the contact info section. And thanks very much.